Welcome, everybody. We're talking about altruism, and it's called living like Jesus. Altruism is really an unselfish concern for other people, doing things simply out of a desire to help, not because you feel obligated to out of duty or loyalty or religious reasons. It involves actually acting out of concern for the well being of other people. And in some cases, acts of altruism lead people to jeopardize themselves to help other people. Those behaviors are often performed very unselfishly and without any expectations of reward. And there's also reciprocal altruism involving taking action to help others with the expectation that they will offer help in return. Now, there's some really everyday examples of small acts of altruism that people can do, like opening the door for strangers, giving money to people in need, focus on maybe, rescuing somebody from drowning. It could be all kinds of different things like that, doing something to help another person with no expectation of a reward, forgiving things that may bring personal benefits if they create costs for others, helping someone despite personal costs or risks to yourself, sharing resources even in the face of scarcity, showing concern for someone else's well-being. And there's a lot of psychological identifications of different types of altruism. There's genetic altruism, and that basically suggests that it involves engaging altruistic acts that benefit to close family members. For example, parents and other family members often engage in acts of sacrifice to provide for the needs of family members. And then there's reciprocal altruism. And this type of altruism is based on mutual give and take relationship, involving helping another person because they may one day be able to help you in return. And then there's the group selected altruism. And this involves basically engaging in altruistic acts for people based on their group affiliation. So people may direct their efforts towards helping people who are part of their social group or supporting social causes that benefit a specific group. And then there is pure altruism, also known as moral altruism. And this form involves helping someone else even when it's risky, without any reward. It's motivated by internalized values and morals. Now, while we may be familiar with the term altruism, there's really an understanding. What inspires these acts? That is what we want to know. Why do we have these acts of kindness? What motivates people to risk their own lives to save a complete stranger? Now, altruism is one aspect of what is known as pro-social behavior, and that refers to any action, and that's a psychological term, that benefits other people no matter what the motive, how the giver benefits from the action. We're not sure why altruism exists, but psychologists have suggested a number of different reasons. They've debated whether some people are born with natural tendency, and there's also a theory that suggests that altruism may be influenced by genetics. Here's the idea though. Altruism may be a part of our soul, not our human, but our soul. And that is our soul caring for another soul, a soul recognizing another soul in need, a soul not needing to think and consider the human factors, but consider the soul connection to another person in despair. Altruism also activates reward centers in the brain. There's also huge neurological benefits to altruism. The pleasure centers of the brain become very active. There is dopamine that is gotten from giving to another person in need. Engaging in compassionate act activates the areas of the brain associated with the reward system. That means that you see yourself secure enough to give resources to another to help another person, which means that your life has great value, that your things that you have done have allowed you to be able to give to another person. The positive feelings created by compassionate actions reinforces altruistic behaviors. Children who observe simple reciprocal acts of altruism are far more likely to exhibit altruistic actions. However, things like opening the door for your mother, that can teach a child altruistic acts. Being able to help do the chores around the house as a child is an altruistic act without any, let's say, getting a benefit financially from doing that, like an allowance. So what you do, and when kids are young, if you can teach altruism, they may practice altruism later on in life. That's called manners. That's called consideration of other people. We don't have a lot of that anymore. Observing pro-social behavior seems to lead to helping behavior among adults as well. So this could take place with gender, cultures, individual contexts. But if you put your ideas into the thoughts that you help other people think and believe that they are being seen and understood and cared about, that has enormous benefits to both the receiver and the giver. There's a lot of societal rules, norms, expectations that can influence whether or not people engage in altruistic behavior. The norm of reciprocity, which is what is owed me for giving, is very, very normal. However, what we have to understand is walking through the world of needing reciprocity means that you are looking for justice and fairness. And fair is a place where they judge pigs. This is not a life where fair is a factor, where justice is going to be found. There will be some justice, there will be some fairness, but the truth is that we have to wonder that in a life beyond us is when true justice and true fairness actually takes place. It's not in this human life. So let's say a friend loaned you money for lunch, and you feel compelled to pay for their lunch. And so, they did something for you. Now you feel obligated to do something in return. Sometimes that happens, but that is not why we give. What we want to give is to give because you need it. We give because we see that you are suffering and we want to help you with the resources that we have. The definition of altruism involves doing for others without reward. And there may be still cognitive incentives that are not just obvious. For example, we might help others to relieve our own distress because being kind to others upholds our view of ourselves as kind people. And that's what we want. We want to exhibit empathy. People are more likely to engage in altruistic behavior when they feel empathy for people in distress. There's a suggestion known as empathy altruism, and it's a hypothesis that children tend to become more altruistic as their sense of empathy develops. Also, help relieve negative feelings. This is something that altruistic acts may help alleviate the negative feelings associated with seeing someone else in distress. And that is called a negative state relief model. And these are psychological terms that I'm throwing at you. But essentially, seeing another person in trouble causes us to feel upset, distressed, uncomfortable, and helps them reduce negative feelings. What we have to also look at is living like Jesus. What was Jesus doing? Jesus was an example of a soul living a human life. And what that means is Jesus identified with suffering, human suffering, and he could see people in their deepest, darkest suffering and what they were suffering in this life and what they were ruminating over and over and over again. And he could actually talk to human suffering. And he could relieve human suffering by acknowledging a person's suffering. And that would set them free. And it was a very important component that he was trying to tell the disciples and all people in this life that you have the ability to do. It is to identify another soul's human suffering and be able to witness it. And that is what we owe each other. However, we're so caught up in our things, in our what we think we expect of other people, what we expect of ourselves, what we expect of our lives, what we expect of our family, what we expect of our spouse. We're so God oriented in how we think of ourselves that we lack the ability to do what God wanted us to do, which is actually identify suffering in other human beings. Now, if you think of an economy that thrives, it's going to be problem solution. And that means identifying human suffering and having a solution that people would be desperate enough to pay for, to offer them something to solve a problem that they need solved so badly. Better health comes out of altruism also. Behaving altruistic improves your physical health in a variety of ways. People who volunteer have better overall health. Regularly engaging and helping behaviors linked to the significant lower mortality. If you think about it, the meaning of life is something that you are gifted with in this life that you have worked hard for and you have learned to do. Purpose has to do with what people seek you for. So, whatever you give away, hopefully, is what you are gifted for in this life and what you have chosen to do that's hard in this life that you can relieve other people's suffering. And they seek you for that. And that's called democracy. Better mental well being. Doing things for other people can make you feel good about yourself and the world. And there's research that shows that people experience increased happiness after doing good things for other people. Also, romantic relationships can benefit from altruism. Being kind and compassionate can lead to better relationships because you, as a person, are much safer. The kindness of the most important qualities that people across all cultures seek in a romantic partner. People that are kind is what people remember most about other people. How they treat other people is what all people remember about others. How they treat other people. That is what will stay with you your entire life, is how people remember you, is how you treat other people. That is your legacy. People don't realize that, and they trash their life and they trash their integrity by the way they abuse other people because of their own selfish desires. Now, children who observe simple reciprocal acts of altruism are far more likely to exhibit altruistic acts. You know, an altruistic act at school may be loaning another child a pencil, or stepping in for another child to play with them, or going to lunch with a child who has no friends, or actually making yourself available to be caring about someone who may or may not be a friend. These are important things. Observing pro-social behavior seems to lead to helping behavior among adults as well. So if you can cultivate this in your early life, you may be able to bring that forward in your later life. Engaging in altruism also helps improve social connections and relationships, which ultimately plays a part in improving your health and wellness. Some people come by altruistic tendencies very naturally, but there are things you can do to help foster helpful behaviors in yourself and others, and that includes finding inspiration. Look into inspirational people who engage in altruistic acts. Seeing others work to actively improve the lives of individuals can inspire you to act altruistically in your own life. It does not cost money to appreciate another person. It does not cost money to unconditionally accept yourself or another person. It does not cost money to acknowledge another person's value. It does not cost money to be grateful. These are all qualities that make a person a better person. Practicing empathy. Now, what is empathy? Empathy is way different than people generally conceive of it. Empathy is the ability to stand on a cliff after someone has jumped off and say, "Hey, I'm here to throw you a rope. I'm here to help you. I'm here to seek help. What can I do to help you?" That's empathy. Sympathy is jumping off the cliff with them and laying at the bottom and both of you complaining about your broken legs. Whining. Whining will suck the soul straight out of your body. And that's what people who offer sympathy get. Set a goal. You want to find ways you can regularly perform random acts of kindness for others. Look around for people who may need help. Look for ways that you can volunteer in your community, fix a meal for someone in need, help a friend with a chore, donate during a blood drive, spend some time volunteering for local organizations. Look at areas in your life where people need you. And I'm not talking about the local homeless person in the park down the street. I'm talking about people who are slugging their way through life and need a little bit of help, need a little leg up, and you can offer that. And that may just be encouragement. And people have to realize that altruism does not cost money. It costs us acknowledging our own suffering and identifying our own suffering in other people. Also, making it a habit. If kindness is in the forefront of your thoughts, think about altruistic acts you performed and how they might have helped someone, how you might repeat them going forward. Consider performing at least one act of kindness a day and taking some time to reflect on it. I know it sounds crazy, but there's these people that will buy the person behind them's coffee. That is such a nice thing at a drive-through to have your coffee purchased by this person ahead of you, and hopefully you will choose to do the same thing and purchase behind you. But unfortunately, sometimes you get people with orders for like $500. So that's not always a good thing. But what we want to do is understand that doing good things for others makes our day a whole lot better. There can be some possible drawbacks to altruism, like it can sometimes create risk. People may engage in altruistic acts that can place themselves in danger. That's unfortunately like Daniel Penny, who choked the guy in the subway who was a meth addict and schizophrenic or bipolar. I don't know what the diagnosis was, but the guy was threatening people's lives, and he basically held him down. He ended up choking him. The guy ended up dying from multiple causes, but of course it got placed on Daniel Penny. Of course, with the politics in New York and the people that they elect there, they wanted to make him fry. So they tried to put him in jail and try to do all kinds of horrible things to him. Luckily, a jury actually freed him. Unfortunately, though, the people that are in charge of that city are despicable. But altruism can sometimes lead people to neglect their own health, their own social, financial needs in order to care for others, and that's a balance that's way out of balance. If you don't live a life where you can walk through the desert and generally live off of other people by your kindness, that's not a way to go. Look, you got to look out for yourself. You've got to fill your tank before you can fill other people's tank. You have got to love yourself, which is unconditional self acceptance, before you can accept other people fully. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and talk more about altruism and living like Jesus. So come back. Welcome back, everybody. All right, we're talking about altruism and how altruism makes us live like Jesus. Altruism is all about helping others without expecting anything in return. And it's fascinated people like philosophers, psychologists, scientists, and everyday people for centuries. And it's acting in the interest of others without expecting anything. That is a very strange thing for us who are very survival oriented. But it can be as simple as holding a door for someone, donating a kidney to save a life. What makes us act this way? Is altruism just a part of who we are as humans? Or does it come from the way we're raised, or the people around us, or the experiences we've had? The truth is, it's probably a mix. And is it exclusive for us as human beings? No. There's a good chance if you have a dog or a cat that they also show a very strong form of altruism for you. Sometimes there's personal motivations for them, but they have the capacity. Some animals actually have the capacity to show altruism for a creature that they owe nothing to. It's also in our environment. And what we have to watch out for is if we want to surround ourselves with selfish people, we're probably going to be a very selfish person. If we're going to surround ourselves with people who are taught to value kindness, for examples, growing up can play a big role if you're around kind people. Does that mean you're going to sell your life away? Does that mean you're going to give everything away? No, kindness is an attitude. That's where it starts. It doesn't mean you have to be no boundaries. Boundaries is here's what I can do, here's what I can't do. Well, that's altruism also, is offering what you can do and also offering what you can't do because it has boundaries. And you need to have that if you're an altruistic person, if you have that quality. It's not a one size fit all thing. Evolutionary biology suggests we're more likely to help those who share our genes. So that would be your family, your children, your relatives. This concept is known as the kin selection, and it ensures the survival of our genetic material. For example, parents often make enormous sacrifices for their kids, prioritizing their well being above their own. And then there, once again, we talked about in the last section, we're going to talk about them again, another category called reciprocal altruism. It involves helping others with the expectation they'll help us in return. Now, there's a study of how cooperation and reciprocal actions have been crucial to human evolution. There's also empathy and compassion. The ability to understand and share feelings of others is a significant driver of altruism. And compassion takes it a step further, compelling us to act on those feelings. So it is very important to understand that altruism is a part of what makes us survive as a species. Society often rewards our altruistic behavior with praise and recognition, and it motivates people to help others. But what you have to understand is there's a lot of people who are followers and who are not survival driven, who do not have survival instincts, who just live off the edge of whatever they can get. And so altruistic people can be a very unhealthy factor in a society where they have no boundaries to what they give. They have no limitations to what they give. And I will tell you that you're contributing to the problem rather than creating an altruistic outcome. If you're giving to people who are already turds, they're going to stink even more. Individual values play a critical role. Helping others is deeply ingrained in our belief systems, which is influenced by religion and culture and personal philosophy. There's a whole lot of religious teachings that emphasize the importance of charity and kindness. There's also a cost benefit analysis, and this is where boundaries come in. Even when an act seems selfless, there may be some unconscious cost benefit analysis at play. For instance, donate money might give you personal satisfaction or give you a higher social status. This doesn't necessarily undermine the act, but it simply adds another layer to our understanding of altruism. It may show that we are a very compassionate person, and that, in a sense, benefits us. There's also this thing called the attribution theory. And attribution theory explores how we interpret the causes of behavior. Sometimes helps like a stranger is because they genuinely care and because they want to appear kind. Understanding these attributions helps us delve deeper into the motivations behind altruism. Some people may move into a brand new community where they knew no one and they start giving of themselves to others without the expectation in return. And in that, they are more likely to be ingrained into that culture than a person who goes there to benefit. Things about altruism is it boosts your mental health. People who are altruistic or have an altruistic ingredient to them have much better odds of having really good mental health. Doing something nice for someone actually lifts your mood. If you want an antidepressant, altruism is one way to do that. But the problem with depression is they don't have boundaries. So they want to give and give and give because they want the dopamine. So they end up giving away everything they have because they feel better when they're giving. Well, that's great, but that's not the best antidepressant. You have to have boundaries around your giving. The positive feelings that contribute to our own happiness and well being from altruism is a healthy dose of dopamine. It is something that helps fuel our day, but it cannot be your purpose. Jesus did make altruism his purpose, but that's the courage to be able to be single and walk through life without any responsibilities but other people. And that's what he was able to do. Now, not all of us can afford doing that, especially if you have a job, children, a house, and any other, a car and bills and all kinds of things. You're not setting your life up to be like Jesus because Jesus had none of those resources. He just walked from village to village, city to city, place to place, countryside to countryside, met people where they were at, and lived off of whatever resources that they were able to provide or he was able to find. And so we have not necessarily constructed a life where we're living in altruism, but we do have a life where we have the opportunity to be altruistic. And people tend to form deeper bonds with other people when they're altruistic, creating a greater sense of community and connection because they do things, once again, not for reciprocity. Maybe they mow the lawn of the church. Maybe they pick the weeds. Maybe they pick somebody up from the doctor's appointment. Maybe they actually step in and give people a meal when they've just had a baby or somebody's sick. When you do stuff like that, you are benefiting greatly for yourself. Your good deeds are not just good for the soul, they're good for your body too, because your body feels better. Your mind feels better because you have provided the resources to help other people, not to just sit there and waste away. Believe it or not, helping others might even add years to your life. Research suggests that those who regularly engage in altruistic acts tend to live longer, possibly because of combined mental and physical health benefits. The psychology of altruism is very complex, and blending biology and psychology and societal influences is all in play when it comes to altruism. But true selflessness might be rare if it exists at all, and that doesn't diminish the value of helping others. If you're driven by empathy or personal gain or societal expectations, these acts contribute to a better world for everyone. Now, what we all hope for is that people, unlike the creatures in the Democratic Party and all these crazy advocates and LGBTQs and crazies and wokies that have joined our political thing, they all are there to benefit themselves and spend our money on anything that they wish to find important, especially anything having to do with trans or teaching our kids how to be trans. But the bottom line is that what we have to understand is politics, we hope, is a common sense approach of people who go in there altruistically to help society, to help the general community, to help people, to help children, and to do it in a way that is not expecting anything in return. People that do that are antisocial, creepos. They are people who should be in jail and people who are taking advantage of people who care about other people. You know, the positive impact of altruism, both individuals and society, makes it worth embracing, regardless of the underlying motivations. You know, there's actually a psychology. You know, it refers to actions that benefit others without expecting personal gain. This explores motivations, influences, and benefits. And there are psychological analysis of why people do that. There's also altruism can be learned, and it is learned oftentimes in childhood. And hopefully, if you have parents who care about manners and care about respect of other people, what they and care about empathy and understanding that lives are very complicated, and someone may be having a bad day, and maybe it's not all about you that they're having a bad day, but it feels like you're their target. You know, we don't know what goes on in everybody's lives. We don't know what level of depression, what level of mental health, what their family is like, what their finances are like, what their survival is like, what their probabilities of outcomes are like. We have no idea. But we love to judge each other because we're such black and white people who care so little and are so impatient and want solutions just the way we want them. And we got to get away from that. We have to add the ingredient of altruism to us as human beings. And we're losing that because we have this narcissistic culture. We have these young people who want to live with their parents until they're 90 years old and live off of everything they earned in their life. And then those the ones that are benefiting, never do a damn thing but sit around and eat and, you know, walk the dog maybe or do something, maybe wash clothes, maybe not even do any of that and eat all their food. It's really sad that we've got a generation, they don't even want to get married. They're watching so much pornography, they're jacking off so much, they don't even want to be married. They don't even want to breed anymore because they're watching so much freaking pornography. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy how people have desensitized to other human beings. And that happened because of our wonderful wokies that took over our government and then made us live through the torture of COVID. Kin altruism, once again, is when you unselfishly support family members. Now, if you are a person who has accumulated lots of income and done quite well in a family, there's a good chance that everybody wants you to be altruistic. So you won the lottery. Now everybody wants you to pay for all their bullshit. Now, just because you're altruistic doesn't mean you don't have boundaries. An altruistic quality is a very good thing. So if you have resources, you want to give it to people who need it, not people who want it, people who need it. And it may not be in your wheelhouse to want to support what they care about. So, for instance, if somebody has a drug habit, you may not want to be giving to it. If they want to buy another house, you may not want to give it to it. If they want to buy a new car, you may not want to give it to it. You know, it may not be a cause you're into, and you have the right to think about that. There's also this cultural group altruism, and it involves supporting someone who's part of a group that you're associated with, or an ethnic group, or a social group, because you may feel that you have a lot in common with that culture and you want to support people that you feel have the morals and values that you agree with. And that's how we are as human beings. We come from villages. We come from tribes. We are a tribal creature. So yes, we do affiliate with other people. Yes, we do feel similarities with other people. And we want to contribute to the people that are more like our tribes. That's normal. That's okay. But sometimes we get too rigid in our tribes and we forget that other people live differently and actually may have some good that we can learn from. So tribal mentality and reinforcing that may not always be the best thing, because some tribes, like religions, may get too caught up in the rigidity of their doctrine and may forget about creating a relationship with God because they're so into their rules and regulations of their specific church. There's no one exclusive way to practice acts of kindness and empathy towards others. It all counts. Altruistic behavior comes in many forms, and it depends on the kind of altruism. Letting a loved one eat the last piece of cake when you really want it, giving your sweater to a partner when it's cold, even if you just have a t-shirt on, caregiving for a relative with a chronic condition, donating blood for a major organ for your sibling, taking a second job to pay for your child's education, fostering or adopting children. These are all very strong altruistic acts and can benefit you greatly and can be very hard to do because oftentimes altruistic things can be great sacrifices. And we have to understand that if you're going to adopt or foster a kid, you don't know where they came from. You have no idea how much trauma they've had. You don't know what they're coming into, what you're coming into. You don't know what their genetics are. You don't know what you're expecting. You don't know what their family background is. You don't know how they were treated. You may have a glimpse of it. You don't know what drugs they're addicted to. You don't know what their proximity of the things that they have developed as far as bad habits are. You have no idea. So you go into these things with leaps of faith. And that's what altruism is. It is a leap of faith into other people's lives. And hopefully, it's a calculated one that is good for the other person. Loaning a friend money who helped you cover bills, helping your classmate with a project who helped you study, holding the door for a colleague who bought you coffee, helping your neighbor lift a heavy package who helped you fix your car, watching your friend's children for an afternoon, and maybe they sat for your dog. These are simple things that add to our lives and make us feel better. Sometimes if you play music or visit people in nursing homes, that's an altruistic act. Paying for the person in front of you at the drive-through, offering pro bono professional services to people who need your services, delivering food to people that can't get out, letting someone with fewer grocery items go ahead of you. Altruism is a phenomenon, and it's documented for centuries among humans and animal populations alike. And there may be an evolutionary actual advantage, particularly for animals in the same family, by helping their own. Their relatives may be more likely to pass on the genes to future generations. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more about altruism. So come back. Welcome back, everybody. We're talking about altruism and how that is like living like Jesus. There's even animals. They behave in a way that benefits others, sometimes even to their own detriment. For example, birds and other creatures will often warn each other of predators. Mammals have often put themselves in danger to protect their young. There's animals with complex social structures like bees and ants and termites that protect the other members of their community. There's even examples of animals helping other species in altruistic ways. Whales and dolphins have been witnessed adopting animals in need and showing other species how to escape shallow waters. You know, we have to understand that we can find deep inspiration in people who engage in altruistic acts. Seeing others work to actively improve the lives of individuals and community can inspire you to act altruistically in your own life. If you think about it, there are people out there who actually look for opportunities to help other people. There's something, for example, it's this is a personal example. So I have people around me who are 80, 85 years old that live in my community, and they live all around our house. And they are wonderful people because they act like grandparents to our child. They look out for our kid when he's doing something crazy. But the bottom line is that I'll go mow their lawn. When I mow my lawn, it takes me what, maybe 15 more minutes. We don't have any property because we live in Seattle. So most people have very little property, at least front yards. And so mowing their yard is not a big deal. 15, 20 minutes extra. No big deal. Even trimming takes about that amount of time. But it's a great convenience for those folks, and it gives me some workout time. Not a big deal, and it feels good. It feels good to be a part of a community. And that's a great thing, to be able to just find where other people may need your help and to be able to offer them help in a way that they need it. Empathy is huge. Rather than distancing ourselves from other, if we practice empathy by building connections and putting a human face on the problems you see. If you were to go, let's say you're a teacher and you're at a school and you see a brand new teacher struggling deeply to try to get to know their job, get to know the kids, get to know the school, try to fit in, try to make friends, try to be a part of something, why can't you take a few minutes and step into their situation and their problem because you've been through it too and help them assimilate into the culture they're joining? Why can't you take the time to get out of your own selfish little world and step into their struggles? That's what it takes for us to be altruistic human beings. We are aware of where others are struggling and we help each other. It doesn't mean you sell your soul. It doesn't mean you spend time you cannot spend. It doesn't mean you sacrifice time with your children, time into being taking care of yourself. What it means is you take the time to step out of your own brain, your own personal selfish needs, and look at others and see them struggling and step in. Setting a goal is another thing about altruism. You want to find ways that you can regularly perform random acts of kindness for other people. Look around you for people who may need help. Look for ways you can volunteer. This is a very important part of our makeup as human beings. We are a social animal in a social culture, and we want to be a part. You are surrounded, if you live in a community, you are surrounded with people who have needs. You can provide security for your own family by helping other families around you rather than sitting in your selfish little vacuum, living in your selfish little life. We got away, especially after COVID, after the wokies and the LGBTQs and the Black Lives Matter took over our entire government and world, including the Democratic Party. Since they did all that wonderful stuff to our human race, what we have to understand is there are good, even in the crazy wokies, there's good in everyone. There's also bad in everyone. But you want to look for the good. You want to look for the good because there's wisdom in the good. There's wisdom in every human being. And the fact is that when you interject your altruistic behaviors into another person's suffering, you are likely to gain wisdom from that person. There is something you can learn from everyone. The deal is that if you set a goal that you are going to be altruistic without the need for reciprocity, that is a great thing. And there's a lot of very selfish, narcissistic, drug oriented, alcohol oriented idiots out there that you can be altruistic to, and they could never even know and never even care and never even acknowledge you're giving. But once again, you are reinforcing that I am a good person and I do care about others. And that is what we are here to be. Your life, if you think about it, when you die, is going to be based on relationships. Relationships, not your income, not your job, not how smart you were, not how kind, what you have done raising your kids. It's going to be your kindness and your gratefulness and your connection and your value to other people's lives. That is huge. That is what is going to be your legacy. When you die, those people are grieving what they lost, not you losing your life. They are grieving what they lost, which is what you brought to their lives. That is your legacy. That is your meaning. That is your purpose. What you do well in this life and give away to others is what you want to make your life about. And you want to make it a habit. Try to make your gratefulness for other people, your kindness, your recognition of the good in others, even the crazy wokies. If you can find the good in them, you may bring out the good in them. Just don't make them your mayor, your governor, your city council member. Please, please, we've had enough of that crap. The also you have to look at, there's a lot of professions that may help find yourself emotionally overwhelmed. There's many people in the medical industry, many people working in mental health. If I remember graduating my master's degree and even my doctorate degree, most of the people who studied to be a therapist are not therapists because they went for their own freaking mental health problems, because most of them have more problems than their clients. But the bottom line is those people went there mostly for themselves. And to actually be in this profession over the long haul, you have to have done it for others. And that is the deal, that you have to find balance. I need to keep my tank full if I'm going to give to others. That means I have to learn how to give myself unconditional self acceptance so that I can give unconditional acceptance to other human beings. And despite these potential problems, altruism is generally a positive force, and it's really worth developing to make you a better person. Societal rules and norms and expectations can also influence, and our society has taken a very negative bent since COVID. And as COVID took place, and as the authoritarian governments and the idiot governors and all the dumbasses who decided to put us all in jail, all these idiots who hopefully will eventually go away and go back to their lives and stop trying to toxically grab onto our children and our old people in our society and make their warped LGBTQ rules about living. If they can back off and just get back to their own living and start plugging each other's buttholes, which is what they enjoy the most, then the rest of civilization, the majority of us, can learn how to get along. And we can all be in our places, and we all need to be in our places. And there are places where you are good at giving, and there are places where you're not good at giving. And what you have to recognize as a person, am I a biased person? Am I giving to people in a toxic way? And there's many people who are they're advocates for certain needs. Like if you're a vast majority of the population, you're going to advocate for your people. And when you advocate for your people, you're going to contaminate the majority. And that is not what you want to do. But what you want to do is have a voice, and you want to have a strength, and you want to be recognized that I am a little bit different. I do like different things, but I'm still a good person. But that doesn't mean you take over and you destroy everybody's life and try to make them like you. You know, if you look to other people's suffering, you are going to find balance in your life. Because when you identify other people's suffering, you are offering people the most valuable thing they can ever have. You know, the really weird thing about people that are traumatized, for instance, traumatic people live in their emotional trauma. And they are so caught up in their victim themes. And they're so caught up in all of the things that have hurt them and how horrible they've, all their little triggers and all their nasty things that have happened to them, that they forget to acknowledge other people's suffering unless they have suffered what they've suffered. So what they end up doing is using their pain as an opportunity to take over another person who may have been raped or molested or done something to, and they use their pain that they have gone through, that they recognize in the other person, and they make it about them. We have to be really careful about that. What we want to acknowledge is other people's pain, other people's suffering, and not make it about us. That's not altruism. Making it about us is not altruism. That is called narcissism. And the other part that is way away from narcissism, which is what our society is filled with today, is narcissism, selfish, gaslighting people, is people that are altruistic don't make other people feel bad about themselves, and they don't try to diminish people. What they do is they acknowledge them where they're at, and they understand people where they're at. That is a very important thing to do. That is how we as people find balance. We have to understand that we're all different. We can accept that. It's just when the people who don't represent all of us try to take us all over and make us them, that becomes a problem. Altruism accepts people for who they are. It doesn't judge people for who they are. So if you're some beer-bellied backwoods human being, can you be accepted for who you are? Yes. Does that mean you're evil? No. Does that mean all your points of view are going to be great? No. But is there a sense of acceptance? Yes. If you're gay, if you've got your, you have to hang up, do BDSM things or whatever, that's who you are. That's who you are. It's okay. It doesn't mean there's not good in you. There is good in you. We have to look for that in each other. That's a very important ingredient for all of us. And altruism calls for us to go above our human instincts and our survival instincts and look to the survival of other people. Even historically in the United States, if you look to people like Daniel Boone played a huge role in settling the Midwest of the United States. And what did he do? He did that for people. He went through lots of horrible things. Indian tribes negotiating, trying to make communities, trying to make people safe, trying to make people's life better, trying to help them settle, trying to help them make their life thrive. That was a very important ingredient. All of it was altruism. And historically, that's what made him an historical figure. Ulysses Grant, who went into the war, he was an alcoholic, but he went through the academy, got thrown out in the academy, went back in. He got made a general in the war. He was already a general, but made a general during the Civil War, and made lots of very altruistic decisions to help our country. George Washington helped our country through altruism and built our country on altruism, and actually became our first president through altruism. These are important ingredients. Ben Franklin, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson. These were very important altruistic people. Altruism begets great things in our lives if we embrace it. But we have to look out for the majority. We have to look out for people that suffer. I want to thank everybody for listening. I love hearing from you. You can do that at voiceamerica.com, the Empowerment and Health and Wellness channels, Dr. Gary Bell's Absurd Psychology. Now, remember, when you give nothing, ask for nothing. It's impossible to be selfish and happy. And the more selfish you are, the more alone you'll be on your way to death. Also, people don't recognize what we do for them until we stop. Thanks for listening, everybody.